Okay, we are rolling. We are rolling, brother. Champions of Champions boxing talk here. We're about a week away from Andy Ruiz v Anthony Joshua. I'm going to say Andy Ruiz v Anthony Joshua because Andy Ruiz is the champion. Because I'm just like you, I don't buy into just the one that sells the most tickets. And I don't put their names first because I am a fighting man first, rather than a commercial man first, if that makes sense. But time is of the essence. We are getting closer and closer to the big bout. How's it going to play out? How's it going to go? Well, I've done this a few times. My prediction will evolve during this video. My breakdown will evolve during this video. And guys, we may come to a conclusion of something I never ever do. And that's make a from your heart prediction and from your mind prediction. You head for your heart, basically. People always say you should always go with your head, not your heart. Well, there were many people in the first fight whose head said Anthony Joshua, but the heart wanted Andy Ruiz. The heart won. So it's not always the head wins. You know, most of the time, yes, but there are certain occasions. Most people in Mexico thought Anthony Joshua was going to win, but their heart said Andy Ruiz, and the heart won. Andy Ruiz's heart to get up off the left hook that Anthony Joshua planted on him in the third round was a factor in winning the day that night. So, I usually don't do that, but I think this time it will happen, and I'll explain why. Obviously, 110% I want Anthony Joshua to win. Right? I admit it, I'm an Anthony Joshua fan. I like the guy as a fighter. I like what he stands for. You see, with me, in the heavyweight division, you have to be one or the other. You have to even be Anthony Joshua, Tyson Fury, or Deontay Wilder. But I'm a boxing fan. I like all three. Right, for different reasons. I like Anthony Joshua because he's eloquent, right? He comes across as a nice guy. And I believe that factually he is. I don't think that's all an act. When he gets in the ring, he's a destroyer. He's a champion. I like Tyson Fury because, you know, he's overcome massive odds. And he's not afraid to say things. Total opposite to Anthony Joshua. That's politically incorrect. I like a person like that too. Same with Deontay Wilder. He says some brutal things in build-ups to fights, which help sell the thing, help promote the thing. And of course, he has that right hand. Who can ignore it? So, as a boxing fan, you have to see the art of all three men. And of course, Andy Ruiz has hand speed. He throws hand speed like Juan Manuel Marquez. He throws combinations like Marquez. He has hand speed that's quicker, I think, than the rest of the division at heavyweight, right? So you have to respect them all. But of course, because the nearest to me, aside from Tyson Fury here in Manchester, is Anthony Joshua. So this is just a pick because he's British. I prefer him because he's British. But that doesn't mean to say that I discredit the other guys. I'm a fan of all those guys to a certain extent for different reasons. On to the fight, and there's a bit to talk about, right? Anthony Joshua said, which, again, this is when you're politically correct, you could set yourself up when you show your sort of, not true colours, but your raw colours. Let's just say that, because that defeat would have been raw. I don't care what he says, that would have been on his mind for months leading up to this. He said that if he beats Andy Ruiz, he hopes that people will bow down to his feet. Words to that effect. And people are saying, oh, see, that's the real Anthony Joshua. He thinks he's the king of the world. I hope he does. I hope he has supreme confidence in his ability, which I think he has, to a large degree. He's probably been rocked recently, excuse the pun. But I hope he has. I like hearing that from Anthony Joshua. You know why? Confidence. Usually Anthony Joshua, to me, a little bit like Andy Ruiz. You see, they both come across as nice guys, but sometimes Anthony Joshua, I'm thinking, God, AJ, bite your teeth down and say what you feel. And he did that a bit, and I liked that. The fact that he may be thinking more malicious this time around, there'll be well, he doesn't have any belts, but let's suppose he's wearing a belt from Marks and Spencer's in the weigh-in. He won't be letting Andy Ruiz borrow it, you know? Not that it'd fit down round Andy Ruiz's waistline. Bad joke. But anyway, you know what I mean. But in the face-off with Johnny Nelson on Sky Sports, Andy Ruiz reversed it. He said he thought Anthony Joshua quit in the first fight. Now, I think Andy Ruiz knows Anthony Joshua didn't quit, but this guy, yes, he's nice, but he's deadly. Like Anthony Joshua. But I think he's more of a psychologist with it than Anthony Joshua. I think he's gotten to Anthony Joshua mentally because Anthony Joshua is used to Charles Martin and people saying, I walk this world like a god. And he's used to Tyson Fury on Twitter and Instagram saying all sorts of nonsense, basically. He's used to Deontay Wilder screaming bomb squad. But when you get a silent assassin, Michael Myers is more frightening than Fred Krueger for a reason. He's quiet, but he is deadly, right? I think the silence, there were moments in that face-off where when Anthony Joshua finished talking, Andy Ruiz left him quiet. And then Anthony Joshua felt compelled to talk again. Bit like, real great interviews. That's how they get information out of people. Silence makes people nervous, even if it's a nice person talking to you in those silent moments. And Andy Ruiz was doing that in this face-off. And I think he's got under Anthony Joshua's skin by saying he quit, because I don't think he quit. I mean, he got up off the canvas 4 times, being hit by an 18 stone plus man, who's a boxer, who's been boxing from the age of 6, with, again, some very decent power. But the thing is, Andy Ruiz does not possess Deontay Wilder one-punch power, probably not even Anthony Joshua one-punch power. But when a guy of that size can hit you with multiple power shots, punches in bunches at that weight, it can be just as brutal, if not more brutal, because you can make the count. You wouldn't make the count against Deontay Wilder with one big right hand, but you take a sustained beating from a guy like Andy Ruiz if he hurts you. Because he's not going to finish you in one punch, but he's going to bludgeon you to defeat, which is a terrible way to lose. It's a bad way to lose. Sometimes Gennady Golovkin, he can finish a fight in one punch. But Marcus Maidana, he used to be like a blunt bayonet from the First World War, just mowing you down round after round. That was a very damaging fight for Adrian Broner when he fought Chino Maidana. Now, of course, Andy Ruiz is a different style, but you know what I'm saying. Antonio Margarito would have took much less punishment losing to Floyd Mayweather had that fight ever happened than what he took against Manny Pacquiao. And Floyd beat Manny Pacquiao, but Keith one-time Furman had he lost to Floyd Mayweather. Would have lost nice and safely. But he was busted up, dropped down and hurt, and maybe some ribs damaged against old Manny Pacquiao. Do we honestly think Andre Berto in 2015 goes 12 rounds with Manny Pacquiao? He did with Floyd. Floyd fires one, stinging right hand, but then he doesn't put them together like Manny does. That can be brutal. Brutal. See, the difference between, Lennox Lewis come back from defeats, but the style thing in this match is the big question. Does Anthony Joshua have that natural style to beat Andy Ruiz? Because Andy Ruiz thinks that his style naturally beats Anthony Joshua. He said it in the face-off. It's the way he is, how strong he is, how big he is, the way he moves. It's all designed for me to beat it. That's what he said. So what that means, and that's what we've seen. We've seen that. We've seen Anthony Joshua nail Andy Ruiz with a left hook. Andy Ruiz get up, and he wasn't really hurt. Joshua's not used to seeing that from his opponents. And Joshua kind of did nothing different to what he normally does. He went in for the kill. But of course, he hasn't faced, a power combination, counter-punching heavyweight like Andy Ruiz. And Andy Ruiz caught him coming in. Andy Ruiz is more dangerous when you think he's in trouble. Joshua thought he was in trouble, and that gave Andy Ruiz the chance. The chance. One thing AJ can't afford to do in this fight, in my opinion, is totally fight on the back foot, though. Because Andy Ruiz, once that knockdown in the third round happened, Joshua was kind of backpedaling. And Andy Ruiz was playing the hunter then. The hunter. Right? And he didn't necessarily need that foot speed, because when he was nailing Joshua to the body, Joshua was feeling it. You could see it. He was slowing down. Not only was he then slower of feet, Joshua, for me, has always had, no fighter is perfect. No fighter is perfect. But his head movement is not particularly, his forte. His upper body movement is kind of stiff. Kell Brook is a little bit like that at welterweight at 154 pounds. The head doesn't seem to move that much. It seems available. And when they do defend, it's with a high guard. But you see, with a high guard against Andy Ruiz, he can hit those guards out of the way. And some of them punches won't land, but they'll move the arms out of the way. So then some do get through. Right? Where if you've got upper body movement, he can miss. Right? You can move your head out of the way of the shots. You can then catch some on the shots with your arms. But if you've only got one of those key fundamental defenses, which is high guard, right, he's going to land on you. As I said, if he throws a combination against Pernell Whitaker, for instance, right, Pernell, he can move away with his feet, right? He can move his head out of one. He can move his chest and shoulders back and forth to avoid, and then, of course, he can throw up a guard. AJ did one in that fight. One. Right? And Andy Ruiz was using that guard as a measure. In other words, when you got your guard up, Andy Ruiz was seeing where he could throw a straight punch, a punch round the corner of Joshua's head. Which Joshua, they talk about the chin that's an issue. Andy Ruiz knows that it's not the chin, it's round the corner of the head. And if you hold a guard, you either have to split it so it's around your ears and then you're susceptible to a punch straight down the middle, or when you close the middle, as I said, a puncher is accurate and a counter puncher like Andy Ruiz can punch around it and hit Joshua in the areas where Joshua gets hurt and he's slow to recover. That shot has always seemed to be an issue, not necessarily just the chin. I don't think it's the chin in the main. I think it's them clubbing shots around the head that is the problem for Anthony Joshua. And the way he negates that problem is by some upper body movement, head movement, right? Foot movement. But the thing is he going to be able to do all this in one training camp? That is the question. The other question is, did we see the best Anthony Joshua that night? There are a lot of conspiracy theories out there, which personally I don't buy into, right? We could be in for a scenario where this guy just has AJ's number, and because Andy Ruiz beats him once or twice, that doesn't mean that Anthony Joshua, I'm not saying he does beat these guys, but it doesn't mean that he can't beat these guys. Watch the trouble Tyson Fury had last time out with an opponent that is nowhere near on AJ's level. But styles make fights. Maybe Andy Ruiz can defeat Anthony Joshua 10 times out of 10, but Joshua might beat Fury and Wilder. You just don't know. Boxing is, I'll use a quote from Dwyer, I think it's a good one. Rock, paper, scissors. It is. It's rock, paper, scissors. You know, the rock beats the scissors. The scissors beats the paper. Actually, no, it doesn't. The scissors loses to the paper. But you know what I'm getting at, right? Just because Andy Ruiz may lose to those two guys, but Joshua may beat him. Let's go to the great era of the heavyweight division. People are saying Anthony Joshua, if he loses this fight, is finished. Why was Joe Frazier and Kenny Norton not finished? They both lost to George Foreman, right? George Foreman had both their numbers, and I mean their numbers worse than Andy Ruiz had AJ's in the first fight. AJ went 7 rounds. These guys, I think, went 2 and 3 rounds with George Foreman. People at the time, because boxing was a more sensible sport, you know, people today, you know, it's not casualism. It was the one damage that the Floyd Mayweather era did. This, you're nothing if you don't have a 0. But of course, George Foreman wiped the floor with both those guys. But both those guys took Ali to hell. But guess what happened when George Foreman fought Muhammad Ali? You guessed it. George Foreman got knocked out because styles make fights. Ali would rather fight George Foreman than he would Joe Frazier. And yet George Foreman would wipe the universe with Joe Frazier and Ken Norton, who gave Ali a couple of really telling tough fights too. But yet George Foreman couldn't beat the guy that struggled with his leftovers. That's boxing. Rock, paper, scissors. Anthony Joshua is not worse because if he loses this rematch, he's not. Does it mean Andy Ruiz is better than him? He might be better one-on-one, but it sounds bizarre. Joshua may still go on to be the best of the era in total. He may beat more world champions and have the style to beat more world champions than Andy Ruiz. We just don't know, right? We just don't know. It's all about not just necessarily one-on-ones, but what a fighter achieves in their careers, respectively. Right? But the keys to victory for Andy Ruiz, he's lost a bit of weight, but I hope Mike Tyson said that he hopes he hasn't lost too much weight. And the reason why is this. When you've got weight, sometimes you can absorb punishment a lot better. Right? So there's a fine balance that Andy Ruiz has to apply here. But if he's lost a little bit of weight, but not enough to take away any punch resistance, because if he's taken away too much punch resistance, that same left hook, if it lands again, may be more damaging. Right? That's a fact. Right? But if he's he's got just enough padding on there, right? Because bodies don't win fights. Andy Ruiz is what he is. He doesn't need to change too much from what got him to champion in the first place. He's the guy that knows he can hurt the other one. He knows he can stop the other one. That's the thing. So minor changes just to adapt to changes that he feels Anthony Joshua will make. But let's go through what the weight loss could give him in terms of an advantage. Hand speed is there, right? Power is there. Anyone that size can hit, right? Ring IQ is pretty good. Selection of shots from Andy Ruiz is good, right? The foot speed, though, could do with work. It would make life so much easier for him to shock Anthony Joshua with quicker feet. Because I felt at times in the first fight, Anthony Joshua was able to walk around, move around just enough to recover his senses partly. But if Andy Ruiz would have had the foot speed to cover distance quickly, he could have finished the fight quicker. And of course, if AJ is quicker in this fight, Andy Ruiz is going to need quick feet to keep up with those feet, if that makes sense, to apply what he does, which again is the counter-punching. But Ruiz has a good chin. Never been stopped as a professional. Right? So we know this guy could have a David Tua chin. David Tua it does remind me a little bit of David Tua when he got up off that knockdown. It was as though nothing had happened. Joshua had used more energy, nailing him, than he was hurt by it, right? But the foot speed to me could be key. Some head movement. Because Joshua did land shots. You see, sometimes knockouts, another quote from Dwyer, causes amnesia. Andy Ruiz was caught with some snapping jabs. The bit of head movement which can be gained through speed can negate that. And foot speed and foot movement, right? But apart from that, you kind of want the same recipe. Because Joshua suddenly overnight won't have the stamina of Joe Frazier. Canelo Alvarez hasn't developed the stamina of a Joe Frazier. He fights in spurts. I think AJ likes to fight in spurts at what he does, right? On to Anthony Joshua. What does he do? Well, as I said, that head movement has got to be there. The guard has got to still be there. He's got to have movement, right? He's got to have a jab and a snapping one that keeps Andy Ruiz at bay. But Joshua needs to do that at the centre of the ring. He needs to push Andy Ruiz back with a jab. Bit like Mike Tyson, Lennox Lewis. You watched the Lewis fight after round 2 once Lennox had settled. He was meeting Mike Tyson centre of the ring, right? He wasn't going to the ropes to give Mike Tyson any opportunities to unload on him, right? But Joshua has to do a similar thing. Jabbing, pushing back. Take some wind out of Andy Ruiz. You see, Lewis was the little dirty one in that Mike Tyson fight. He was leaning on Mike Tyson, showing Mike Tyson, hey, I'm the champion here. This is not your night, pal. I don't care if they call you the baddest man on the planet. You're meeting the pugilist specialist now. That's what Anthony Joshua has to do. He has to be alpha in there. Lennox Lewis was alpha against Mike Tyson. Push him back. If Andy Ruiz attempts to come forward, either move but remain centre. Or, again, hold Andy Ruiz. You're a big, strong guy. The jab to the body, I don't remember seeing any of that from AJ. That can push the wind right out of someone's sails. It did with Povetkin, but it was missing against Andy Ruiz. That could have been because Anthony Joshua was so scared about what was coming up top with the counter punches. And let's face it, Ruiz nailed him to the body, as I've said, that he didn't dare to throw the jab downstairs. He's got to be willing to do that, but get that hand back up as quick as he's thrown it, right? But never let Andy Ruiz think that you're here to defend tonight. Defend well, but have a purpose. Have a purpose, and that's to be always in the centre of the ring, right? Anthony Joshua said to Johnny Nelson, I'm not the boss, but I'm one of the bosses. I don't like that sound. I don't like that talk. When a boxer goes into training camp, they obviously hire the trainer and everybody, but the coach should always be the boss, in my opinion, especially with a character like Anthony Joshua, who could do with work still. He's still got development to go, in my opinion. Right? But it makes me wonder, when you're the money man, people look to you. Before that, they're telling you what to do, and the telling you what to do gets you to where you are. Those guys helped put Anthony Joshua at the top, but now he's at the top, they're asking him questions. They've got to forget that he's the rich boss and remember that they're in charge, and Anthony Joshua has to accept it. Right? Everybody had a go at Rob McCracken after the first fight, AJ's coach. But if I'm hearing phrases like I'm one of the bosses, was McCracken really in control? You have to bear that in mind. When a boxer says, I'm partly in control, what he's really saying is, I'm the money man and I'm completely in control. That's what I read from that. But that's not good. That is the sort of thing that, will get you. You see, it's not I'm a celebrity. This is boxing. People play other sports. They don't play boxing. You mess around psychologically thinking you're a celebrity. And I don't think Anthony Joshua goes around thinking, I'm it. But maybe there is a sense that he thinks he's made it now. The minute you think you've made it, you're going to get knocked out. You're going to get knocked out. Let's face it, that's what even cost Tyson Fury v Deontay Wilder. He was moving around, posing, thinking the fight's won. Then bam, in the 12th round. Wilder got a draw out of it. He threw away the loss. It was remarkable to see him get up off the canvas like that. The story was great. It was like a Rocky movie. But then you thought, oh my God, had he just been Floyd Mayweather and moved around, he'd have won that fight on points. So sensible, keeping those feet on the ground, because the thing is, Mayweather is a celebrity outside a boxing ring. But when he's in it, oh, he's professional. He's too professional. If he can avoid a shot at any cost, he's going to do it. If that meant Floyd Mayweather talking to an Indian guru about being able to avoid punch, Floyd would listen to them. Trust me. Floyd, you got to have that single-mindedness. I'm going to play the promoter outside the ring, but when it comes to training and in the ring, this is going to be punch perfect. The trainers are the boss. The people that see the flaws are the boss. I wonder at times, did anybody have the heart or the guts to tell Anthony Joshua some of these things? Because I've been hearing he was hurt in training before the first fight. I've heard it now. But I've heard things like David Price knocked him down. I wonder when those incidents happened, did they analyse this as thoroughly as they could, or did they think, we don't want to upset the big boss because he might move us on? Now, Anthony Joshua has said that loyalty is the key, right? So I think Anthony Joshua is a loyal person. So I think that they should feel comfortable picking these flaws out. I think he will be more thankful for it. I don't think he'll fire people for it. I think he'll be grateful for it. He's that sort of guy. But these two guys don't look at the personalities when they talk. When they get in the ring, they're destroyers. Right? But Anthony Joshua needs to fight the centre of the ring. The jab needs to be working. It needs to go to the body to slow Andy Ruiz down if that weight loss has increased his speed. Joshua needs to have had a stamina Essence training camp where he has got a tank, because he may find that he can't knock this guy out, so he has to take it to points. I think in Saudi Arabia, they may favour Anthony Joshua on the scorecards, but he's got to box centre of the ring, and he's got to hold. He's got to tie up when he feels like he's hurt, which I've not seen Joshua really do. He tends to fight fire with fire, in my opinion. Right? When he nails Andy Ruiz, if he hurts him, here's another key point. He has to be patient. You can't be over eager with a fast-handed heavyweight who is a good, crisp puncher and throws those punches in bunches, as I've said. Why? Because when you go in desperately, you leave yourself wide open. Andy Ruiz, unlike most heavyweights, doesn't throw single shots. You see, that might not have happened to him, ironically. Had he dropped Deontay Wilder with a left hook, Wilder may not have caught him like that. Because Wilder is primarily one-handed. His best hand is the right hand, but Andy Ruiz hits with both just as well. That's the problem. Right? So, that shot that Joshua landed, the left hook, that Andy Ruiz wouldn't have taken that shot against Deontay Wilder, because Deontay Wilder can't throw a left hook like Anthony Joshua up close. He can't. Anthony Joshua is the more complete boxer. But of course, Wilder's right hand neutralizes everything. It detonates. It's not the bronze bomber. It's a nuclear explosion. Right? But as I've said, patience, measurement, centre of the ring, head movement, upper body movement, right? The high guard when you need it, but don't stand stationary with it, because he'll punch through it, right? And he'll go to the body, he'll go around to the side of the head, and it will just be like last time. Stamina is the key. Stamina. Right? So putting all those things together, my heart says Anthony Joshua. But my head says Andy Ruiz. Because I don't think Joshua can become Muhammad Ali in one training camp, bouncing around his feet, making Andy Ruiz frustrated. I think for moments he will do better defensively. But you know, Mike Tyson did say another good saying. Everybody's got a plan until they get hit. So my heart is for Anthony Joshua. There's a biasness because I'm British, and I admit it. But painfully, my head says Andy Ruiz. Now, of course, the heart won in the first fight. The Mexican hearts won. Their heads said Joshua, but the hearts said Andy Ruiz, and the heart won. But most times, the head wins. And I have to accept that. It was not. Let's face it, if Anthony Joshua wouldn't have been a superstar, nobody would have been calling for this rematch. The first fight was so conclusive that if Anthony Joshua was just another fighter, he wouldn't get this rematch. That fight was not close. It wasn't. Andy Ruiz wiped the floor with Anthony Joshua more than he did any other, well, not any, but Joseph Parker gave him a tougher fight. And we have to remember the Parker fight. And again, the referee didn't let Joseph Parker get close to Anthony Joshua. So we have to bear those things in mind. In America, it was different. It was fight. Go ahead, fight. And of course, Joshua spat the gum shield out. And he sort of was resting on the ropes and the ref called it off. But at Wembley, that might not have happened. But he's not at Wembley. Here's another thing. Location might not suit Anthony Joshua. He's not at Wembley. The guy that is used to travelling is Andy Ruiz, a Mexican that fights in America. Of course, the heat. Andy Ruiz is used to that heat. I know Joshua's been, to Saudi Arabia many a times, but it's still not home from home. He's still away from home. There'll be as much pressure on this fight as there was on the one in New York, maybe more. Can he pull it off? Of course he can. He's got the ability. But at this point, I'm saying that Anthony Joshua, with my heart, wins. But he had so much of an advantage stylistically, Andy Ruiz, that my head's with him. And Anthony Joshua has to make so many adjustments to beat him, unless he lands the right shot and stuns Andy Ruiz early. But I think this is going to go some rounds. And as I said, AJ does not fight for 12 rounds. You can develop stamina, but sometimes it's difficult. And you see, there's another saying. I've said a lot of sayings in this video. Fatigue makes cowards of men. I don't mean that it literally makes them cowards, but you can't do the same things with fatigue as you can when you're fresh. Not in Anthony Joshua's case, anyway. He gets sort of less strong after 6-7 rounds. Then he's more vulnerable. The other thing is he over this beating he took psychologically, right? Hatman is right. Lennox Lewis didn't fight Oliver McCall right away when he lost. He got it out of his system. But Joshua's going right back into the lion's den of a guy that beat him. See, there was corrections that AJ needed to make. But Lennox Lewis, yes, he did improve as a fighter. But I don't think he needed to do as much to prepare for the guys that had beat him in the first fight as AJ has had to do in this fight in just the space of one training camp. Can it be done? Can the gap be made? Yes, it can. Of course it can. Right? But my head is with Andy Ruiz. I just see Joshua making a better start than he did in New York. But I see Andy Ruiz ruggedly weathering a storm. And Joshua falling back into old habits, and then inevitably Andy Ruiz with that hand speed causing some trouble. And I don't think, the head's not telling me it goes the distance. The head's telling me that around the 10th round, we see a stoppage and Andy Ruiz win. But as I said, style-wise, Joshua could still go on and beat the other guys. This guy just might have his number. If Anthony Joshua wins, you have to give him massive credit. You know why? This is a style disadvantage to him. The sign of true greats are not when they win their easy fights stylistically. It's when they face styles that are not right for them that they come out, make adjustments, and deliver the goods. And if Anthony Joshua does that, yes, a Deontay Wilder may beat an Andy Ruiz very easy, we don't know. But we know Anthony Joshua doesn't. So if he finds a way to do it by making adjustments, his mindset, all of that stuff, you've got to give AJ massive credit. This would be the biggest win of his career. It would eclipse the Klitschko fight stylistically, in my view. It would. Because stylistically, Andy Ruiz is more trouble. Yes, he is. He's more trouble stylistically than even the great Klitschko. Because again, boxing is rock, paper, scissors. Now, where am I going? Is that the head or the heart? Let's flick a coin. Heads is heart. Tails is head. Let's flick it. Let's see. This is where we're going to. Well. Tails it is. So it's Andy Ruiz. But I hope you are really having a go at me on this video come Saturday night, telling me how wrong I was. I hope you're calling me all the names under the sun, trolling me like nobody's business, and I will be so happy, smiling that you're doing so. Right? I hope you meet me in the street and beat me up. So, well, I'm just joking, but you know what I'm saying? This is a case where, like Liam Smith v Canelo, I would love Liam Smith to win, but I just think Canelo would win. But I would love to wake up and hear that Liam Smith won. I would love to watch that fight on Saturday night and see that Anthony Joshua wipes the floor with Andy Ruiz and beats him the same way he did to Dillian Whyte. I would love that. Is it going to happen? Well, it went on tails, that coin, and my heart's with AJ, but my head, it says Andy Ruiz, and I'm afraid it's Andy Ruiz it is. But I can be wrong. I'm hopeful I'm wrong. Nail me in the comment section, guys, if I am. And I will be delighted to take the heat. Anyway, this is Champions of Champions Boxing Talk. It's been an epic video. And I'm out, brother.